Can you imagine your neighbor, someone you see every day, trying to kill your dog just to settle a petty grudge? That's exactly what happened to my family in the quiet, manicured streets of Willow Grove Estates, where our golden retriever, Max, nearly lost his life to a woman we called the HOA Queen. Let me take you back to that gut-wrenching day when everything changed. It was a regular Tuesday evening. My wife, Emily, and I were having dinner, the kind of quiet moment you cherish after a long workday. Our 10-year-old son, Liam, was playing in the living room when he suddenly burst into the kitchen, his face pale, voice trembling. "Dad, Mom, something's wrong with Max!" We dropped everything and raced to the backyard. There was Max, our loyal, goofy golden retriever, convulsing on the grass, his body shaking violently, foam dripping from his mouth. My heart stopped. Emily's hands shook as she dialed the emergency vet, while I scooped up Max's 70-pound frame, wrapped him in a blanket, and carried him to the car. I don't think I've ever driven so fast, weaving through traffic, praying he'd hang on. At the vet, the diagnosis hit like a punch to the gut. Chocolate toxicity, the vet said, her face grim. And based on the severity, it was a lot of chocolate. Emily and I exchanged confused glances. Chocolate? We were obsessive about keeping it out of Max's reach. Liam knew never to give him human food. "This doesn't look accidental," the vet added, her voice low. "The amount in his system suggests someone fed it to him on purpose." My stomach churned. Who would do this to Max, the sweetest dog you'd ever meet, who'd greet everyone with a wagging tail? Then Emily gasped, her hand flying to her phone. "The security camera!" We'd installed a Ring doorbell and backyard camera a month earlier after some package thefts in the neighborhood. With trembling fingers, she opened the app and scrolled through the footage. And there it was, clear as day, our next-door neighbor, Margaret Hensley, the iron-fisted president of the Willow Grove HOA, leaning over our shared fence, dropping what looked like a handful of chocolate candies into our yard. She glanced over her shoulder, sneaky and deliberate, before tossing in more. I felt sick, rage bubbling up inside me. "Got you!" I whispered, my hands clenching. Margaret wasn't just any neighbor. Around Willow Grove, she was infamous, the kind of person who'd measure your lawn with a ruler and send you a violation notice if it was a quarter-inch too long. When we moved in 2 years ago, she'd greeted us with a fake smile and a 28-page HOA rulebook, complete with highlighted sections she suggested we study. We learned quickly that Margaret ran this neighborhood like her personal kingdom, wielding the HOA bylaws like a weapon. Our first clash came just weeks after moving in, when she slapped a violation notice on our door about Max's excessive barking. Max, who barely barks unless he's chasing a ball or greeting the mailman. Neighbors later told us Margaret despised dogs, calling them filthy nuisances. She'd even tried to ban pets from the neighborhood, but the pet-loving residents outvoted her. Things got worse 6 months ago at an HOA meeting. I'd had enough of Margaret's double standards, like denying our friends, the Thompsons, a privacy fence while fast-tracking approval for her buddy Clara's identical one. "The rules should apply to everyone," I said in the open forum, earning nods from other fed-up neighbors. Margaret's face turned beet red. She slammed her gavel, cutting me off. "The board's decisions are final, Mr. Carter," she spat, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Perhaps you should read the bylaws more carefully." From that day, she made it her mission to nitpick everything about our house. Our Christmas lights were up 2 days early, our trash cans lingered curbside for 30 minutes too long, our front door's navy paint was unapproved, instead of the correct midnight blue. But her real venom was aimed at Max, with endless complaints about his so-called barking, complaints no one else in the neighborhood ever made. The day before Max's poisoning, Margaret had marched over while I was washing my car, while viewing another complaint form. "Your dog was barking for 15 minutes straight yesterday," she said, smirking. I knew she was lying. Me Mom had been at our house all day, and Max was inside with her. When I called her out, her eyes narrowed to slits. "Are you saying I'm making this up, Mr. Carter?" she snapped. Maybe the HOA needs to discuss penalties for residents who can't control their animals. She stormed off, her perfectly styled hair bouncing with every angry step. Now, here we were, watching footage of that same woman trying to kill our dog. The vet worked through the night, pumping Max's stomach and giving him fluids to fight the theobromine poisoning. Liam stayed by Max's side, tears streaming down his face as he stroked Max's fur and whispered, "You're gonna be okay, buddy." Emily and I took turns comforting him and talking to the vet, the video burning a hole in my phone. By morning, Max was stable but still critical. The vet said the next 24 hours would decide if he'd pull through. I drove home to grab a shower and some supplies, my mind racing. That's when I saw Margaret in her front yard, calmly pruning her roses like she hadn't just tried to murder our pet. Something snapped. I marched over, my voice low but shaking with fury. "We have you on video." She looked up, confused for a split second, then flashed her usual smug smile. "Good morning, Mr. Carter. I don't know what you're talking about." I held up my phone. The footage paused on her leaning over our fence. "You fed chocolate to Max yesterday. He's fighting for his life because of you. What do you have to say?" Her face paled, but she recovered fast. "Oh, that? I was just giving him a treat. I didn't know chocolate was bad for dogs," she said, waving her hand like it was nothing. The lie was so blatant it made my blood boil. The video showed her checking for witnesses, her movements careful and calculated. "You made sure no one was watching," I said, stepping closer. "And the vet says you gave him enough to kill him if we hadn't gotten him help in time." Her mask slipped, her face hardening into the HOA tyrant we all knew. "You can't prove anything," she hissed. "And if your mud got sick, that's your fault for not keeping him quiet like the rules say." That was it. I turned and walked away, pulling out my phone to call 911. Within 20 minutes, 2 police officers were at our house. I showed them the video and explained Max's condition. They took notes, asked for the vet's contact info, and requested a copy of the footage. "Animal cruelty is a felony here," one officer said. "Especially with evidence of intent. We'll need to talk to Mrs. Hensley." From my living room window, I watched them approach Margaret's pristine colonial house. Even from across the street, I could hear her outrage. "This is harassment. I'm the HOA president. Do you know how many violations the Carters have?" The officers stayed calm, eventually moving her to their patrol car to talk privately. By then, neighbors were peeking out, drawn by the commotion. Word spread like wildfire. While I was back at the vet with Emily and Liam, my phone buzzed with texts. Margaret was spinning lies, telling everyone I was framing her over HOA disputes. But then someone still don't know who shared a screenshot of the footage in the neighborhood group chat. The tide turned fast. Neighbors came forward with their own stories. The Wilsons said Margaret left anonymous notes, threatening their cat, and old Mr. Jenkins admitted his poodle got sick last year after Margaret watched it for a day, something he'd brushed off until now. The vet filed a report with animal control, confirming the poisoning was intentional. 2 days later, as Max finally came home, tail wagging weakly, police and animal control showed up at Margaret's house with a warrant. The neighborhood watched, stunned, as officers led her out in handcuffs. She screamed about lawsuits and false accusations, her face twisted with rage. A local news van caught it all, the reporter talking about multiple allegations of animal cruelty against the HOA president. Margaret's "I didn't know" excuse collapsed when prosecutors found her Google searches from the day before. "How much chocolate kills a dog?" and "Can vets detect chocolate poisoning?" She was hit with felony animal cruelty charges, facing up to 5 years in prison and due $10,000 in fines. The HOA meeting that followed was packed. Margaret was unanimously ousted as president, and the board issued us a formal apology. The judge set her bail conditions: no contact with animals, meaning she couldn't return home since every house nearby had pets. As I watched her crumble in court, I felt no joy, just relief. Max was back on our couch, recovering, and justice was coming for the woman who tried to take him from us. But the question lingers, how far would someone like Margaret have gone if we hadn't caught her?